been putting this on the back burner for about a month now, but I figure it's finally time to finish it. So it's a 12-year aged whiskey starting off. Alright, let's do this.
The magic you're looking for is in the will of trying and not giving up. The love of your dream is in your heart. One day you'll look back on your life and appreciate the struggle and have nothing but gratitude for everything that happened along the way. And you come to recognize that in return, you're given the chance to earn the greatest edge of all, and one that can never be taken away. To anyone who's struggling early in the morning or late at night in pursuit of your dream, struggles that many will never see, and to any leaders out there who believe in someone who doesn't yet believe in themselves, keep going. Keep going, because will always finds a way.
How's it? I'm Joshy Boy, and I have an interesting life.
All my brothers got that gas and they always be smoking.
This is for the gold, Jordan.
When my homies pull up on your block, they make that thing go grata-ta-ta. Switch my whip, came back in black, I'm starting saying rest in peace to Bon Scott. Close that door, we blowing smoke, she asked me light a fire like a Marsan. Act a fool on stage, probably leave my fucking show in a cop car. She was legendary through a TV at the window of the montage. Cocaine on the table, liquor pouring, don't give a damn. Dude, your girlfriend is a groupie, she just trying to get in. Saying I'm with the band. Ay, ay. Now she acting out of pocket, trying to grab up on my pants. Full of bitches in my trailer city, ain't got a man. And they all brought a friend. Yeah, I've been fucking hoes and popping pillies, man, I feel just like a rock star.
Been through some injuries, mentally and physically. Studied them religiously so I don't repeat history. And people won't admit to me they don't want a victory. Bad enough to get a C, they'd rather just go leave it be. And oh, this journey I've been on since 13. Working hard and learning, never stopping searching. Yeah, it's burning, all this passion hurts me. I take action working, writing down these words.
No, I'm not okay, I just wanna be something. I don't wanna be nothing, living all alone. No, I'm not alright, I'm just barely getting by. But I'll tell you I'm just fine, so you leave me alone. They say I'm way too obsessed and I've got nothing left. And I'm not quite there yet, but those words they'll regret. Cause I've got something left and I'm not giving in.
I'm from Hilo, Hawaii, on the Big Island, and I'm fortunate enough to not only be born in Hawaii, but also to be raised and grow up in a place that people call paradise. But if I had to describe my life in 2 words, it would be rage and love, because not only it's great, it's good to be living in paradise, but I had to overcome a lot of adversities throughout my life. Like when I was in first grade, my grandma, she passed away 5 days before my birthday, and then 3 years later I saw my uncle pass away on the hospital bed from stomach cancer, like flatline and everything. And then my grandpa passed away a couple months after seeing him for the first time in years after I graduated high school. And when I was a keiki growing up, I was that shy, quiet kid of the class. Didn't have really a lot of friends. I got bullied. I lacked a lot of traits that the other kids had at that time. I was too short, too slow, not strong enough, as in strength-wise. So it got a little bit better once I got to intermediate school, which is 7th and 8th grade in Hawaii, and then essentially to high school. That's when everything changed and all that. I was essentially a late boomer because of how I was able to to break that shell, so to speak, was I joined the Army JROTC program when I got to high school at Hilo High School. I went to Hilo High School and I was class 2014, so when I got there in 2010, I essentially joined the Army JROTC program initially because I already knew I wanted to go into the military at that point, so I guess you could say it was kind of like that was like my first introductory into similar things that, you know, the military has, like the DNC and all that, and, you know, the leadership skills. That was my first time ever, you know, had to experience, you know, being a leader and all that. So I remember my first year, you know, having to start from the very bottom and work my way all the way to the top and progressing through the years until I graduated high school. The way I did that was, you know, at first, you know, being the new cadet, so to speak, I just volunteered for everything, so to speak. Like, I volunteered for all the special teams, you know, color guard, Raider PT team, honor guard, drill. Volunteered for all the spring camps, leadership schools, all the extracurricular stuff, you know, the competition events. So I got to travel a lot while I was in high school, you know, to compete in those events throughout the state. And, you know, I remember my first year going from cadet private to cadet staff sergeant, and then went to ALTC, Advanced Leadership Training, which is now HALC. So it's basically like a summer officer, you know, guys who want to become officers and all that, you know, to become like on staff or whatever. So I went to that summer. I skipped, instead of going to cadet second lieutenant, I skipped to cadet captain because I did all my staff work during the summer. So my instructor, first sergeant Pasco, he saw that as me, like, you know, this guy's not here to, you know, this guy knows what needs to get done. So that's why I kind of was able to skip ranks a little bit. And then, you know, my senior year, I got to be the top dog, you know, cadet lieutenant colonel, battalion commander, and then deputy commander. And, you know, by the time I graduated high school, I was racked with a crap ton of awards. You know, that's why they call me Jingles, because I have so many awards. And you know, that nickname never gets old, and that's what a lot of people know me for in high school. So essentially, because of Army JROTC program, I was a late bloomer, and, you know, I was able to gain traits like leadership and perseverance and all of that. But I also was able to gain the traits I lacked, you know, like the speed, the strength, you know, the height. You know, I grew taller and all that. So I went into the program. You know, I came at the right time because, you know, I had very good instructors. First Sergeant Pascal was all there for my 4 years. The SEI, the colonel that was there, he retired after my second year, and then, you know, I've had multiple colonels after that. But, you know, First Sergeant Pascal, he really helped me. You know, he was really one of my, you know, guys that influenced, and all the other instructors too that I've been fortunate enough to meet in the program. You know, when we go to these camps, you know, leadership schools, and, you know, just everything in general, competition events. And I was also was able to meet a lot of people. So I basically know at least a quite bunch full of people from every single island in the state of Hawaii. So, but, you know, thank God for that program, man. Pulling out all these awards is like going down to memory lane. Like here's my staff picture when I was battalion S3. When I was a battalion commander, but during second semester they put me as deputy commander because they wanted the other senior that was my XO that was my XO. They wanted him to become BC the second semester, so So they put me as battalion. So they put me as deputy commander because it was kind of like I was basically like a substitute teacher, basically, to put it in short terms. And you can see how racked out I was from junior year to senior year. And then all the different place medals I got. You know, second place. This was 2012. Third place in 2013. And this was just, I think, completion or for participating because they didn't have any placements. Some of the different medals and tabs I earned. I even got expert marksmanship badge because we do marksmanship during the second semester of every year, and I finally got expert during my junior year. One of the medals that I like the most is the Distinguished Cadet Medal, which I got my senior year, and also the Purple Heart Leadership. That one has a funny story to it. Oh, and also Meritorious Foreign Wars, right here. How I got the Purple Heart Leadership was kind of fun because we did, you know, all the instructors and my staff, they thought it'd be funny to give me the Purple Heart because I got injured during basic train during the summer, but you know, they thought it was a funny joke. And then the beret, and then here's the beret they let me keep because my senior year was the first year they were getting issued the dress blue uniforms, the ASU. So, but during my senior year, only the staff guys, the guys on chain of command, got the blues, and everybody else still wore the old green uniforms. So, you know, it's pretty cool that I got to wear the new uniform before I graduated, and then use some certificates like Department Award, Advanced Leadership course I did my junior year, and then, you know, a bunch of team. Every year, if you do special teams, you always get team participation awards: color guard, drill, honor guard, raiders, whatever, leadership. Completing, you know, my term, all 4 years, and then the fancy cover they gave me for the Purple Heart Leadership, and then Military Foreign Wars, Superior Cadet, and then the Distinguished Cadet MVP Award, I guess you could say, you know, certificate right there. And then they even, you know, it's kind of dirty because I pulled it out, but the Purple Heart Leadership, you know, all framed and fancy, you know, thanks to, you know, Lieutenant Colonel Vertov, that'll be a good touch. That was my SCI when I graduated. And then my Precious Award is the one I got from the Governor and 2 Generals, the key only Poibo Award. One cool thing about earning this award is that every year 26 senior cadets throughout the state of Hawaii will get awarded the Key Only Foundation Poibo Award. And so essentially this award is basically being the top, not only representing your school, but also being the top senior in your Army JROTC program. It's essentially like an MVP award type of thing. And I was lucky enough to be one of those 26 senior cadets for class of 2014. Not only that, my 2 guys that I, you know, been friends with for a long time, Vin and Vince. I knew Vince since 8th grade, but then he moved away to Kona side. But even though he moved away, we remained best of friends since then. You know, all 3 of us, when we started Army JROTC, we went to every single leadership camp, competition events, leadership schools, and we pretty much did everything together. And for all of us to, you know, for all 3 of us to get this award right before we graduated in 2014, not only it was a bittersweet feeling, but not only we got to represent our particular schools. You know, Vin was from Kona High School, Vince went to Calicut High School, and I obviously Hilo High School. Not only we got to represent our own schools and our JRT programs, we also represent the big island of Hawaii, and this is one of those awards I always cherish forever because I'm on that pedestal of Mount Rushmore where not a lot of cadets get to have something as cool as this, and I'm very fortunate enough to be nominated to not only win this award, but I get to join those group of cadets that were there before me that earned this award. Seniors that I've looked up to that got the award, and it feels great that I'm finally part of that class. And that group to say, hey, I got the Keone Foundation Award from the governor of Hawaii, and had the privilege of meeting two generals as well. So, this is one of those awards I always cherish forever, and it's sitting on top of my shelf with all my other awards too. One thing that I can take away from the NJROTC program that I've carried throughout the rest of my life is leadership. Having that role as a leader, that trait, to not only be the next man up and stepping up to the plate when there comes a situation where you have to adapt and overcome and basically essentially work at a problem. I've been fortunate enough to have really great instructors, First Sergeant Pascal and all my colonels and all the other instructors I met through competitions, leadership schools, and off-island adventures and all that. As well as I had a great chain of command, guys that were there before me, and then then pass down their knowledge and experiences to me to where I can use that to adapt to my own leadership traits, and then being able to pass on that torch to the next guys. And that really didn't start till about my junior year, having to step up to the plate of accepting a higher role as a leader. And it was really put to the test my senior year when I was dealing with all kinds of injuries from my 11 Bravo split option training earlier that summer. And then once I came back home to continue my senior year of high school, it was talk about having to adapt and overcome. Given the circumstances, I really couldn't do things how I really wanted to do, like being as a leader. So I had to essentially adapt and overcome by thinking of other ways to not only be as a leader but also serve as that role. So my senior year, that's when I kind of started that whole coaching and assistant instructor type role, because I wasn't able to have that full senior ride, so to speak. Like guys before, they were able to be the senior team captains and participate in all those competition events and camp schools for one last ride in their careers, so to speak. But my senior year of high school, I had to learn how to do things differently, and I made it work. I worked the problem. No matter how difficult the situation was at that time, but I just found a way to adapt and overcome. So in 2016, I took a few months off because that's when I went back into the military, and honestly I got banged up again. So I continued serving as that assistant instructor role until First Sergeant Pascal retired. And at that point I felt like I did everything I could, because not only being that assistant instructor not only helps me to expand my leadership roles, my roles as leader, and having that leadership capability, but having that time from my senior year and those 2 years as a graduate assistant, being able to serve different roles, being able to teach a class, and having guys that I took under my wing while I was in the program, and guys that came in while I was there for those 2 years as an instructor. They can look up to me as someone, as a role model, essentially, not having to go bother First Sergeant Pascal or Lieutenant Colonel or any of the colonels or anything like that. So at that point, when me and First Sergeant left, it just felt like a bittersweet moment for both of us to leave, because not only because First Sergeant has spent a lot of time after he retired from the military and did another 20 years being an instructor at the NJROTC program at Hilo High School, but I felt like I did everything I could to pass on my my experiences, all my knowledge to the new guys, and every now and then I will always go visit the good old compound again, and being able to see how my experiences and art and guys that I look up to when I was in the program, how how we expanded our knowledge and like leadership traits to where it's being passed on to the newer cadets, and it's a bittersweet feeling, but those were the best 2 years of my life, and I was kind of like an old school instructor because that's how things were back then. But right before I left, I told them don't do the things that I do. If you ever become a leader, because last I need is for them to get into trouble, and but hey man, I love those cadets, and ever since I was a keiki, I always wanted to join the military. Like I remember when I was younger, I was playing with toy guns and playing army with surplus gear and all that in my backyard. And then once I got a little bit older, I started playing with airsoft guns, and after I watched a movie in 5th grade called Black Hawk Down, I was totally hooked. Like I wanted to do that, like shoot machine guns, blow stuff up and all that, kick down doors, fast about helicopters and all that. And going through high school, I got more hooked into, I fully committed to join the military because of the Army JROTC program, and I joined at the age of 17 through the split option program with the Hawaiian National Guard during my junior year, because I was born in February, so I was able to go through that type of enlistment. Basically what the split option program is, you can enlist in the military during your junior year of high school, and you'll go do your 10 weeks of basic training during the summer of your upcoming senior year, and then once you graduate high school, you finish off your training, which is your AIT, your job training, or wherever you left off. So I did that. I enlisted as an 11 Bravo Infantryman, mainly because my ancestors from both sides of my family have served in the 442nd Infantry Combat Regiment, which was a highly decorated unit in the Army, which consisted of Japanese Americans that fought in Europe and in Asia, in the Pacific during World War II. A lot of my ancestors that have been in that unit were heavily decorated, and I wanted to follow in their footsteps, wearing the blue cord, cross rifles, and eventually earning my EIB, and if I ever deployed to get that CIB so I can follow in their footsteps. Went to Fort Benning, Georgia, home in the infantry in the summer of 2013. It was an eye-opener, not gonna lie, it was an eye-opener. Like, it was totally different from the movies. But it's just one of those things where I signed up for it, so I knew I was getting myself into, and it just felt like a dream come true, because I've been waiting my whole entire life just to pursue this dream. But unfortunately, I banged up both my knees pretty bad, to the point where they had to send me home, and I was really bummed out about it. And because I was a split option and I went through the split option program, I not only had to finish high school, which was my senior year, I still did my drill, 1 weekend a month, and I also did physical therapy too, even doing all those rehab, appointments and all that, treatments, everything. By the time I graduated high school in May 2014, my knees weren't healed enough to go back to training, so I got discharged from the guard, and then that's when I became an instructor's assistant for my ROTC program, and then went to college, to Hilo for a little bit for college, and then during that time I was just prepping to go back. So eventually I did get back in the military. I went back into active duty. Same job, infantry, except I was 11 X-ray, because regular Army basically gets to pick if you're gonna be a regular infantry guy, which is Bravo, or you could be a Charlie, which is a more when I went back in, I ended up being as a mortar, as a 11 Charlie. So I was like, whatever, as long as I'm still in infantry. Because the reason why I went back infantry is because I felt like a sense of redemption. I still, there's a chip on my shoulder. Like, I wanted it so bad to get that boot corps and cross rifles and everything, but it took a year for me to get back in, to get all the, to get medically cleared for my knees and all that, and get released from the National Guard with my NGB 22. However, when I went back, coincidentally, I went back to the same unit, different company, and I also had the same drill sergeant. I went to first battalion, 19th Infantry Regiment, and then the first time I went, I was in Charlie Company. Second time I went, it was in Easy Company, and second time I went, it was a really fun, pretty enjoyable ride, so to speak. But unfortunately, as much as highly motivated as I was to go back and be there again, even though I had to do everything all over again, but I didn't care. As long as I was there, I was happy. Except sometimes life hits you hard, and the injuries start piling up again, and I got discharged for injuries again. And I can tell you, it's a whole rap sheet of injuries, from my head all the way down, all the way down to my legs, all the way down to my foot, actually. So I got discharged for that, and getting told the second time that I was being sent home, because of my injuries, how banged up my body was. Like, I was super close to having rods and screws in my hip, and I was 20 years old when I went back in, and that's pretty scary, to hear that. And I was really heartbroken that, not only to have injuries sideline you once, but to get sidelined permanently because of it. It's a feeling that it was a really bad feeling. Like I felt like everybody back, I let everybody down back home. Let all my guys down and everything like that, but it is what it is. And just thinking about it is kind of tough, because you grew up your entire life to pursue this dream, and not only for it to end once but twice for the same reason, injuries. That's when you kind of start thinking about, is it really worth to go back again and get more banged up, or take whatever injuries I have now and just be able to enjoy some type of life, even though most of these injuries are going to be permanent and stuck with me for the rest of my life. So it's a tough pill to swallow, but at least I can say I am the 1% of Americans that raise their right hand and be able to serve my country, even though it was shorter than I wanted to be. But I'm still, all my guys are so proud of it, that I was willing to go back. I was willing to go back, and yeah, it's just, if you ask me if I would change the thing about my Army career, still go infantry and have, still the same outcome, have it end quickly by injuries, quite honestly, I wouldn't change the thing at all. Because, as much as I have those what ifs, what if I didn't get injured, and what would my life be if it weren't, if any of those things didn't happen. But one thing I always will cherish from those good 2 years of my life is the people I've met, all the officers, NCOs, the people I was fortunate to work with, be around with, do the same things every damn day. It's a bond and cohesion and camaraderie to a point where most people wouldn't be able to understand how close and how tight we are, to the point where we were willing to give our lives for each other because we care for one another. And I will always cherish, that's one thing I always cherish from those 2 good years. And I miss those guys every day, even the guys who are not here anymore. I love them all. and I wouldn't change a thing because it's made me who I am today. So, do I have any regrets for how my Army career ended shortly? No. I'll do it all over again with the same outcome. I still do it in a heartbeat. No hesitation. So I've been back home in Hawaii now for about almost 4 years now. I came back home from Georgia September 2016, and not gonna lie, once I came back home, it was pretty rough. The first couple of months wasn't too bad because I was just more, just recovering, staying in bed. But once 2017 hit, that's when everything kind of went downhill. It was heavy drinking, stress eating a lot just to kind of numb and put away those bad thoughts. Not gonna lie, it was a pretty bad spot to a point where I really didn't care about living anymore. Like, I didn't care if I died that day, tomorrow, the next day, a month from now, or whatever. Like, I just didn't care anymore. And how I was able to bounce back was I found out I was going to be an uncle. I have a baby nephew right now. He's about to turn 2 years old this June, and the one that really hit home was when my friend Todd. I met him during my second time around in the Army, and this dude was like, he didn't complain. If you told him to go do something, he'll do it. He won't complain. He'll just get it done. First 2 weeks into his deployment, he deployed in November 2017, and he was killed on Thanksgiving. And I'll never forget that day. Someone that you're willing to give your life, to save theirs, and next thing you know, they're gone. Like, I remember a couple days before he passed away, we was just talking stories and all that. Saying happy Thanksgiving, blah blah blah, and next thing you know, gone. Like that, not to be heard from again. So that was really the turning point that hit home, and at that point I was like, I'm gonna live my life not only for myself but for my nephew and for Todd. So when 2018 came around, I went from 162, which was, I gained 30 pounds from all that drinking and stress eating or whatever. I lost those 30 pounds by doing this military CrossFit program that my friend was kind of doing. So I followed him through that 9-week program, and that really helped. And then I just maintained, and it was pretty good, But one thing I've noticed ever since I got hurt in 2013 got injured in 2013 was, it just seemed like since that year, every 2 years, I would consider like a bad luck or a bad year. So 2015, 2017, 2019, it just seemed like a weird pattern where every 2 years since I first got injured, where bad things just happened to me. Like last year was a pretty tough year on me. So like early on in the year, I was dealing with a lot of personal stuff, and maybe like a few days after that happened, I had 3 of my friends within the same week, within a 3 to 5 day time where they just committed suicide. And in May, one of my buddies that I met during the first time I was in the Army, Dakota, he passed away in his sleep from a brain aneurysm. A month after that, one of my friends, Jordan, I call him JT because his actual name is Jordan Harold, but sometimes we call him JT for short, or just to kind of mix up a little bit. He passed away in a plane crash up in Oahu, and after that happened, it just seemed like all the trauma, all the bad memories, and all the bad stuff that's happened to me over the years since pretty much throughout my life, that I've kind of put it away in a sense, and then ignore or overwrite, if you're familiar with that term, where you just kind of put off to the side and think about it later. Well, let's just say all that stuff I've been trying to hide over the years, all those thoughts, memories, all those bad things, you just hit me all at once, and I really broke down last year. Like, definitely, if it weren't for the Army or Army JROTC program, being able to build that courage to, like, saying, I got a problem, it's a pretty bad spot, and I can't do it by myself, and I need help. So anyway, so how I bounced back from having a bad year into a bad year of 2019 was, I remember, it was like every night I probably had average about 1 hour sleep, and then I'm all, jumpy, night sweats, everything like that, like all 9 yards, everything. And then one of those nights I just broke down more than usual, so then, I hit up one of my old NCOs, one of my old sergeants, and I was like, hey, dude, not gonna lie, I'm in a pretty bad spot and I need help. And then I reached out to one of my buddies who was deployed at the time. I'm not gonna say where because of operational security, but I hit up another friend, my producer Blaine, and those three guys really helped me a lot. And that's the type of camaraderie that you really won't get in the civilian world, where guys are willing to just drop everything, no matter what they're doing, no matter what time, what the day or night it is. They'll stop whatever they're doing, just to come check up on you, and do everything they can to help you out. And because sometimes when you find a war inside your head, which I've been for many years now, I've never been deployed or anything like that, but I've been through a lot of stuff to where I have a war inside of my head, where it's like a constant battle, and sometimes you can't fight those battles and those wars by yourself. You need some help. So thank God for those guys, man. I remember when I started running by myself again, it was like, I was gonna do 1 mile, and then became 2 miles, and then one time I was like, I'm just gonna go a 2-mile run. I was like running, I was looking at my watch to see what mile I'm on. I was like on mile 4. I was like, oh, really? Doesn't feel like 4 miles, but I was gonna keep going, and that's when everything took off. And then what really put the nail in the coffin on that journey was my Uncle Claude. He spent the last 3 years, doing research, going through the family history, and trying to contact and find everybody, because we had a family reunion in August last year. And at the reunion, when he talked a little bit about himself, he's a retired college professor from in Oregon, and he was also a marathon runner. But when I was having one-on-one conversation with him, he had to kind of tone down that marathon career he had because of his health and all that. But I thought he was the only one that did long distance marathon running, but turns out there's quite few people in my family, my mom's side of the family, because that's where Uncle Clyde comes from. And one of my other uncles that runs, he's been doing it for 14 years, and I said to myself, you know what, 14 years, that's one hell of a legacy right there. So that's gonna be a lot of shoes to fill, but I'm willing to create my own legacy. So I told Uncle Claude, I was like, hey, I don't know how to thank you, but you and whoever else was doing marathons and all that, you guys inspired me to pursue this new journey. Today is September 13th, 2019. I am 6 weeks in since I started training, and today is Friday, so this is gonna be the last training day for a week, and get right back to it on Monday. So let's get these 6.2 miles.
I have a dream, that's all I need. I'll make it happen with some work and belief. Know what I want, so I'll take it on. I've made mistakes, but mistakes make you strong. Let's break it down for a minute. I want the crown, I'm gon' get it. You hear me loud, man, I'm winning. Yeah, Charlie Sheen will be grinning. These ladies know that I'm sinning, and this is just the beginning. I'm closing in the night inning. There ain't no point in resisting. Living life like a dream, live it right, that's the thing. Every night got a team, I've been tied to the scene. Out on stage, here I'm screaming. Okay, it's a dream, and I pray as a team.
One thing that I realized once I started this journey to become a long distance marathon runner is sometimes you gotta take breaks and take days off to let your body recover and prevent any further injuries. But one thing with me is that I have a pretty active brain, so I always gotta keep myself busy because I can't just sit there and do nothing or else I go insane from boredom. So how I keep myself busy is doing activities like very adventurous stuff such as hiking, hunting, video games, making YouTube videos or whatever content for my social media. But the one thing that really keeps me busy is guns. Like, I remember my love for guns since I was a kid. Like, I remember going from water guns to toy guns, airsoft guns, and then once I joined the military, that's when my whole passion for guns just took off. Because when I first joined the army, that was the first time I ever fired a real rifle or any real gun in general. And since then, my passion for firearms has grew, and I'm more driven towards it, like always wanting to get better and be more proficient at it. But it's just one of those things where, just like hiking, and Bill Joe Armstrong talks about how guitars and music is his sweet escape. Well, firearms for me is my sweet escape. And the one thing that I can gladly say is I've shot a lot of guns. I mean, a lot. Two people that I idolized when I was growing up are Tom Brady and Julian Edelman of New England Patriots. I'm a Patriots fan if you can't tell. Aside the fact of being able to say I probably get to see 6 Lombardi trophies being raised in my lifetime since 2001. Tom obviously winning those 6, and Jules winning the last 3 with Tom. The reason why I look up to those two guys is because of their mentality, that underdog mindset, the perseverance, and overcoming adversity. Like, they didn't get to where they're at without having that underdog mindset, having to overcome adversity, they're building that perseverance that no matter how shitty the situation or circumstances are, they always find a way, just to keep going, and, in the end, they always come out on top. So, and that's the type of mindset I took during when I started committedly training those first 4 months. That's a lot of wear and tear on your body, and I was also a rookie runner at that point. I've done 2 5Ks. The first one was to kind of see where I'm at, and then the second 5K I did was to, I just booked it on that one, and I did pretty good on that one. But the training regimen I originally started with, it was putting a lot more wear and tear on my body, so like all the injuries, start piling up again. So with some help, I was able to reestablish healthcare with a civilian doctor, and he couldn't believe that I went 3 years without any type of healthcare, let alone a doctor too. So I couldn't get those proper treatments, ever since I got home. My doctor, after I reestablished everything, updated my vitals and all that in my records. So once I did that, he referred me to the best rehab facilities on the island, and that's where I met Sonny. Sonny and I got along really well from the start because he was my dad's physical therapist when he was going through rehab. But what brought us even more closer was that he was also a marathon runner, so not only he understands the wear and tear that your body, he also gave me the proper rehab treatment program that is more towards my injuries, because of all the other doctors I've had in previous years, during physical therapy and rehab, they just give me some type of treatment program where it's not even towards my injuries, so I'll basically just be wasting my time doing all these exercises for nothing, and you just still limping around in pain and all that. But Sonny is the Lord and Savior Grace, because he's the first doctor that actually understood, the types of injuries I've had and how to treat them properly. I remember the first day I entered that facility, he told me, I'm not gonna push you harder than you should be, but I'm gonna tell you right now that the first day is always the easiest, and the days after that, I'm gonna push you even harder just so you can regain that strength in those particular areas and that was injured in. So, and not gonna lie, I did see a lot of improvements, because during my train days, or practices, I guess you can call it, not only I was getting faster and stronger, I was also performing better during those practices and training runs, and I also put on a little bit of muscle. Like, I never really did care about having muscles or anything like that, but doing this rehab program they put me on, really, I started noticing a difference between, like, my legs started getting more toned, my arms are getting a little bit more toned as well. So thank God for Simon, because he really did help me perform better in that last stretch before my race.
You probably think that you are better now, better now. You only say that cause I'm not around, not around. You know I never meant to let you down, let you down. Would've gave you anything, would've gave you everything. You know I say that I am better now, better now. I only say that cause you're not around, not around. You know I never meant to let you down, let you down. Would've gave you anything, would've gave you everything. Whoa. I did not believe that it would end. Everything came stuck into the benzo. You're not even speaking to my friends, no. You knew all my uncles and my aunts, though. 20 candles, blow 'em out and open your eyes. We were looking forward to the rest of our lives. Used to keep my picture posted by your bedside. Now it's in your dresser with the socks you don't like. And I'm rolling, 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 rolling with my brothers like it's Jonas. Drinking Henny and I'm trying to forget, but I can't get that shit out of my head. You probably think that you are better now, better now. You only say that cause I'm not around, not around. You know I never meant to let you down, let you down. Would've gave you anything, would've gave you everything. You know I say that I am better now, better now. I only say that cause you're not around, not around. You know I never meant to let you down, let you down. Would've gave you anything, would've gave you everything. Whoa. I seen you with your other.
The week of the race was a really weird week for me, mainly because that Monday, it was my final training run and I ran a really bad, slow run time. I was frustrated with that. Then that Tuesday, Wednesday, I was dealing with an Achilles issue, so I had Sonny check that out when I went to rehab later that week. Saturday, went to the hotel, checked in, did all my administrative paperwork and all that, medical screens, get my goodie bag of swag, and then hang around the convention for most of the day. It kind of felt like media day, the week before the Super Bowl where everybody's got like their pop-up stores and all that, and a bunch of people just hanging out. There's like one thing going over here, and then another part of the hotel they got this going on. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, it was just full on my normal carb load routine and hydration, electrolytes, recovery. I don't know why, but I just kept having this really weird feeling later that night. So to kind of help me relax and get locked in and focus for the race, I was sipping on a glass of Jameson cold brew, and I was watching Super Bowl 51. I don't know why, but I always like rewatching Super Bowl 51, and watched Julian Adams' documentary 100%. After that, I was watching a few Tom Brady videos, like motivational type videos, and then a buddy of mine, his name is Tech. He's an infantry platoon sergeant up at Fort Carson right now, but I've been following him, or he's been an inspiration of mine since I first joined the military. So, and he's dealt with adversity in his military career as well. He survived a helicopter crash in Afghanistan, and then right after that went to Ranger school, graduated, got his Ranger tab after getting recycled a couple of times, and then went to Best Ranger competition. After that, he tore his Achilles right before his deployment, rehabbed his ass off, and go on with that deployment. And he also ran a 5K for the first time since he tore his Achilles. And not gonna lie, I knew once me and him, we never really got to meet up or anything like that when he was still in Hawaii. But Tech, if you're watching this, we ever come back to the island, bro, fucking let's go drink a couple longboards and have a glass of whiskey or something whenever that time comes. But Tech has really been one of those guys I really looked up to, and I wish, and if I was still in the military, I would have been glad to have him as my platoon sergeant or a leader to look up to, because we having those conversations with Tech, we kind of motivate each other. So watching his stuff, and then watching all that other in Patriots motivational stuff, and rewatching some of the historic games and all that, to kind of get me amped up, that really helped me just to lock in and focus that night. Later that night, I also had a small pair of self-reflection, like I got asked this a lot since this whole journey began. It was, why do I do the things that I do? I never had an answer for it at the time, but now that I kind of sat back and really thought about it, my short answer would be is because I put in the heart and will to do it. Like, nobody took a scalpel knife, opened my chest up, and looked at my heart to see what drives me to do the things I do. I mean, it takes a different type of person to raise their right hand not only once but twice to swear an oath to God and country and be that 1% Americans to join the military, and having to deal with a lot of adversity, but always find a way to kind of get yourself out of that bad spot, having to overcome a lot of things in life. During that self-reflection period, I had a moment where all those bad thoughts I kept at bay for years, they all kind of just came back during that time. Like, I really thought about all the people that didn't believe in me, say could do this, could do that, kick me to the curb, talk shit behind my back, said things about me that weren't true, said stories about me that weren't true. And the worst ones is the people that decided to use my past against me, because some of the stuff that I've been through in my lifetime, some of it has scarred me for life, where it's literally like a scar embedded inside my body, and those were life-changing events, and it's kind of messed up to think about, but those people think I'm dumb, like I'm smart enough to have a 3.8, 4.0 GPA. I was dumb enough to get 13 on the aspect, but I ain't that stupid, like, I've heard the same thing for all my entire life, where, it was like one of those things where you keep hearing over and over again, you just get tired of hearing the same shit over and over again, like, oh, you're a good person, captain, you deserve this, blah blah blah. Like after a while, we keep hearing over and over again for so many years, especially. It's like, you know, I've heard this shit so many fucking times already. The great Muhammad Ali once said, "I'll show you how great I am," and having that self-reflection period that night really sparked, you know, that mindset of, you know, why I decided to carry on this journey, and you know what motivates me, what fires me up, gets that competitive fire going, and you know, it just seemed like throughout all my life I always proved people wrong, and you know, essentially doing this 10K is basically my way of saying these people, you want to say this stuff about me, do these type of things to me, well guess what, I'm gonna show you how great I am, and it's game on. Besides wearing my Cry VS and all the other things I wore at the race, like my memorial bracelets, one particular item that has a high symbolic feeling to me, that and the reason why I wore it is this shirt. This is a unit shirt from the recon platoon of the 442nd Infantry Regiment, 100 Battalion, aka Purple Heart Battalion. If you don't know about this unit, it's the most decorated infantry unit in the Army that was composed of Japanese Americans that fought in World War II and Korea, and then now it's an Army Reserve unit. So how all this came about is, I have a great buddy of mine that's currently in the unit. His name is Kaviko, and me and him go way back, like around 2012. That's when I first met him at a Army JROTC leadership camp. It was an off-island leadership camp for me because, you know, it was in Oahu, and Kavika's from Oahu. So, you know, once I linked up with him, you know, at that leadership camp, we just been best of buds since then. And there was a period of time where I really did thought about going back in for a third time, and you know, if I did decide to go back into the Army for a third time, it would be to the Army Reserve, because Hawaii is the only state where there's an infantry Army Reserve unit, and that infantry unit is the 442nd Infantry Regiment. And you know, how cool would that be, you know, being able to make it a third time, and you know, being able to serve in the same unit that my ancestors fought in World War II in Korea, and you know, served in throughout their military careers. You know, how cool would that be? But you know, once I sat back and you know, really thought about it and processed it, you know, the pros and the cons, you know, my injuries from my previous two stints in the Army, and you know what could happen if I decide to go back, you know, what are the consequences going to be, and you know, I really thought about it, and it wasn't really worth it at that point to get more banged up, you know, because I essentially put my life on hold for so many years, and you know, I want to be able to enjoy some type of, you know, youth that I have left. I mean, I turned 25 in next February, but I'd rather deal with all the amount of injuries I have now than, you know, having to risk it, you know, getting more injured if I decide to go back in, and you know, not be able to fulfill the rest of my young adult life, essentially. So you know, it was kind of like a hard pill to swallow, but it's just one of those things where, you know, I got to take care of my health, and you know, and Kavika understood that, but you know, he talked with his boys, and they sent me a unit shirt, not only to rep in the race, but they know how much of a symbolic meaning the 442nd has to me because of my ancestry. And when I got the shirt in the mail, there's a little note inside in the envelope, and it said, "Become a better gunfighter than the Army will ever let you be." And they added to a little bit of motivation where, you know, whenever you're sucking wind during the race, you know, think of us, and just remember we always got you back. And reading, you know, getting the shirt and reading that little letter that they gave, that, you know, Kavika sent to me, you know, from the recon platoon and his boys, you know, that's, you know, that means a lot to me. And at that point, I told myself I can't let these boys down, because, you know, they went out of their way to, you know, to get this shirt out to me, and at that point, there's no way I could let them down. So yeah, that's the reason and story why I wore the 442nd Recon Platoon shirt. Go for broke. March 15th, 2020, game day. Essentially my Super Bowl, at least that's how I thought about it. Waking up that day and, going to the race site and whatever, it felt different from all the other game days I've had, competition events from my days in JROTC and the 2 5Ks I've done just a few months ago. Today just felt different because it just felt like a bigger stage, because literally the Big Island Marathon event is the biggest event on the island of the year. So, and throughout all my life, I always imagine myself on a bigger stage. Whether it's from making videos or this new career pathway of a marathon runner. I didn't know what it will take for me to get on a bigger stage, but if this is the start of it, then so be it. And I also felt like everything was on the line for me at that point, because I'd done as much as I could to prepare, and 8 months to prepare for 10K is kind of a bit overkill, but you have to remember I've dealt with 7 years worth of injuries, and it's better, and to me at least, it's better to be over prepared than being under prepared. So when I finally got to the starting line of the race, there was like about an hour to kind of just chill out and do whatever, because my race didn't start till 7. So I just remember talking to Uncle Claude, and he wished me good luck, and then I talked to Sonny. But we always joke around with each other, like, because of the amount of preparation I did for this race, and he's like, you know what? In my honest opinion, you should be running the half marathon, or hell, you could be running the full marathon right now with the amount of preparation you put into it. I was like, yeah, but my mind was already locked in at that point on the 10K, and he wouldn't stop jabbing me, but I was like, you should be running more. So yeah, man. So that kind of brought my mood up a little bit, and my parents couldn't be there because of the COVID-19 thing, so I understand. So it would have been cool to have them there, but hey, it's better to be safe than sorry, especially with the COVID-19 pandemic going on. So I probably had 1 or 2 people that showed up. So right before the race was about to start, I was just walking. I was in the very back. I decided to stay in the very back of where the start line was, like in the very back, essentially, because I already knew from experience, in school, athletics, competition events in Army JROTC and the PT test, and then, doing all the running, like PT tests and other stuff in the Army too. There's always that group of people that, just want to go Usain Bolt full sprint, and they just gas themselves out. And sure enough, as the race started, I was running at a really good pace, and then next thing you know, just barely a mile in, and these guys are already gassed. I was like, yeah, you idiot. That's what I said to myself, like, yeah, you idiots. And I just kept going. Everything was going so smoothly, like, I was running really good. I shaved off 3 minutes on all my run splits, and, it was like, man, it was like running on cloud 9 essentially, basically, but that all changed once I got to the turnaround point. I don't know what happened once I got to the turnaround point, because I didn't hear any bones crack or anything like that, but once my left foot struck the ground after I ran around the turnaround point, my left foot went numb. So I was like, this is kind of weird. So I figured it's one of those things where I can just walk it off if I keep going. So I decided to go rehydrate at the Gatorade tent, drinking Gatorade, water, energy gels, Cliff bars, everything, just to kind of refuel myself. And boy, that was a mistake, because the shark pain just shot down my entire left leg, and I was like, out of all the injuries I've had, this one is definitely up there. I remember like it was so painful. Like that was definitely one of the worst pains I felt ever. And it's kind of a shitty spot because I had a thought to myself where it's like, this can't end like this. I'm not gonna let those people that doubted me kick to the curb, talk shit, about me and all that, win again essentially. I took a lot, I took a lot of L's throughout my life, and I was gonna let that happen again. So I kind of used some dark humor to kind of spark up my morale again. I was like, my leg's not broken, so that's good because I can still move and all that. But the worst thing that could happen to me is be dead on the side of the road, And I had that mindset where it was just like, this is like the Super Bowl 51, down 28-3 in the third quarter, and not gonna lie, finishing those final 3 miles was the most painful 3 miles I've thrown in my entire life. Essentially at that point having to finish the race on one leg was gonna be a challenge itself, and I just did a little pep talk to myself, keep going, you gotta believe, and one more. And that was my mindset once I continued on to mile 4. Mile 5 got challenging when my right foot started getting numb, and I was like, well, this is not good at all, essentially. And it just became one of those days where I have to dig deep and essentially make a comeback. And I told myself at that point, with the amount of pain that I'm in, having with my left leg completely injured and my right foot is starting to get numb, finishing that race with all this adversity I'm dealing with right now, it's gonna be one hell of a story. So as painful as doing mile 5 got, I just kept going. I also tried to distract myself too. So like there was a guy in front of me running across, so I thought that was the weirdest thing. So that kind of boosts up my morale a little bit. I was sucking wind pretty bad with with both my legs essentially almost crapping out on me. And before that final mile stretch, mile 6, I went to the Gatorade tent to refuel, and got the adrenaline kicked in at the right time when I needed it the most, because once I drank that Gatorade, I just felt invincible. As painful as it was, full sprinting, but I knew going into that race that was essentially my Super Bowl. And if you want to win the Super Bowl, you pretty much put everything on the line at that point, including your body, no matter the consequences, where you do whatever it takes to win, essentially. And it was real painful, but I didn't care at that point because I just wanted to finish that race. And running that final mile got pretty emotional. Like the adrenaline was pumping, which kind of helped with my leg and my feet going numb and all that, but it kind of really hit home, like to the point where I was asking myself questions like, am I good enough? Am I good enough for anybody? Am I good enough for myself? Am I worth it? There's a quote that Julie Emmett always kept saying, tough times don't last, tough people do. And having underdog lifestyle and the relentless mindset that sometimes you don't understand what it takes to get to the top of the mountain. Like, I wish I could rip my eyeballs out so people could see the things that I've had to experience and gone through, just for them to make it easier to understand me as a person better. And my mind at that point was going haywire, and it's pretty emotional too. I mean, I'm a pretty emotional guy, and just thinking about this kind of gets me choked up every time. So finishing the second half of that race really showed the intestinal fortitude and the perseverance that's within me, because having gone through a lot of adversity throughout my life, like I still live with the guilt of not being able to fulfill my military career, being so close to fulfilling a dream, being at the top of the mountain at the highest peak, and then just to see it all crumble to the ground is, it's a real shitty feeling that, I really feel ashamed of. But, having to experience death at a very young age, with my grandma and my uncle passing away when I was younger, and my grandpa passing away and all that. So, of course, my my friends like Todd, Dakota, JT. The only thing I can really remember during that final stretch, besides thinking all of that, was that final stretch kind of reminded me of 28-28 overtime, first overtime drive, and Tom and everybody else just thinking jump down the field, and James White ran in for a touchdown and wants to go 2-1. I remember once I hit that final right turn right before you go to the finish line, that's when everything was kind of started getting a little bit blurry. Not in a sense like I was about to pass everything, but it's just one of those things where I really don't remember what happened. So I just remember I got really I kind of had a little bit of tears going down my face right when it was that final, probably say 20-30 yards away from the finish line. But once I crossed it, that's when everything kind of just went blank, and everything was like at that point I was in disbelief and I was more relieved that I actually finished, despite having to essentially pull a comeback, so to speak, to where I injured my leg, in the second half of the race, and having to, have the intentional fortitude and perseverance to just keep going. It felt like a weight was so much of like, I finally, I finished, gave everything I got to make sure I finished that across that finish line, and my two friends that were there knew they were there to congratulate me once I crossed, and I told them what happened, and because I still had my Beats headphones on, I kind of heard the announcer, how they say your name, your bid number, and then your run time. So it was like I ran an hour and 12 minutes. If it weren't for if I didn't injure my leg, I probably could have ran easily late 50s, early 60s. So one of my buddies, he told me, hey, the announcer said you had a really good run time, that you might be able to place top 3. And we were kind of bickering back and forth about this, because I thought he was joking, like, no, you're just trying to say that just to make me feel better. I mean, I was more relieved at that point just to finish, but we just kept going, bickering back and forth. No, man, that's impossible because I hurt my leg. Bid and race, there's no way, that I could have pulled off that upset, so to speak. So the only way to find out was at the award ceremony. So since the half marathon and the full marathon was still going on, they did the award ceremony for the 5K and 10K races. And how they did it was they by the top 3 overall that ran the fastest for that race, and then they just did everything else by gender and age group. Also, the adrenaline rush was still flowing. Like, I even borrowed getting my leg checked up because I was still have the adrenaline rush going through. And sure enough, once they got to the award ceremony for the 10K race, they did the top 3 overall. They ran the fastest for that, and then it went okay. Then the announcer went males, age group. I think it was 10 to 19, and then once I got to my category, because I was 24, so they're like, so the announcer goes, okay, for males, age group 20 to 29, third place, second place, and then lo and behold, first place, Joshua Dodo. This has got to be a dream, right? I'm just hearing things. I'm probably delusional or something or whatever, but there's no way they called my name for first place for my age group. And then my buddy, he kind of tapped his elbow on my arm, and he's like, "Hey, buddy, you're the MVP for your age group." And I was just in disbelief at that point, and everybody's trying to figure out who I was. So they were like, so everybody's looking around, is it this person or that person? And they call my name again, and then they're like, is Josh here? I was like, I'm coming. I still had my plate carry on and all that, and then when everybody turned around and saw it was me, they were just shocked as I was. Like, this guy won the MVP award for his age group. Even the announcers were shocked too. Like they was asking, you do the race in that? I was referring to my ABS. I was like, yes sir, and Also, another thing too, I injured my left leg halfway through the race. And so then one of the other announcers in the award ceremony, they gave me my plaque and all the other prizes that I won for getting the MVP award. One of the other announcers comes like with 2 cans of Michelob Ultras. And he's like, you know, we normally give the winners, you know, the ones that are of age to drink, of course. Right, you know, we normally give the winner one can of beer, but because you pull that shit off, and out of my 14 years of being MC for this event, you're the craziest motherfucker to ever pull that off. So we're gonna give you 2 beers for that. Hey, can't say no to free alcohol, so you know, I was drinking my victory beers and all that, and then so there's this tree on Bayfront I always go to. I don't know why, but I always go to this particular tree by the canoes, and because that's where I always like to go under the shade, or do my rest periods when I'm doing my beach runs in the sand or whatever. So I kind of separate myself from the award ceremony area. Like, I told my friends, hey, I gotta go take care of something. So okay, whatever. Went to my favorite tree, and I just remember looking at it, and I just started bawling. Like I squatted down, looked at my plaque, and I just started bawling, crying, dude. Like, I was just in disbelief at that point. Like, finishing the race on one leg was essentially one hell of a story, but to also get the MVP award for my age group, now that right there is one hell of a story itself, and that's when it kind of all hit me. All the highs, all the lows, good train days, bad train days, all the bad things I've been through, the adversity I had to overcome throughout my entire life. And last time I felt like a winner was my senior year in Army JROTC when I won the Keoli Poibo Award from the governor and the Distinguished Cadet Award. But having to go so many years without winning and getting that MVP award after having to finish the second half of the race on one leg, and being in so much pain, and when both my feet kind of numbed out, that was the first time in a long time where I felt like a winner again. And it's an unbelievable and bittersweet feeling, because it really shows that I put in the work, sacrificed a lot of things. The people that doubted me and said I couldn't do it, well, guess what? I accomplished the impossible, and it's just one of those things where it just feels like a Hollywood ending, so to speak, like a fairy tale ending. For me to finish that race and get that award was, you couldn't write a better script with a perfect ending, so getting the MVP award, just thinking about a lot of things. I was at my favorite tree that, that's when all the happy tears essentially started coming out, and,
The lesson to learn is you less than, and yes, man, if you sleep the class, your last questions. Like what? What did I miss? Bitch, you missed the greatest testament, can't pass the test again. Don't sleep on me, don't sleep, don't sleep, don't sleep, don't sleep, yeah. Don't sleep on me, don't sleep, don't sleep, don't sleep, don't sleep, yeah. Don't sleep on me, don't sleep, don't sleep, don't sleep, don't sleep, yeah. Don't sleep on me, don't sleep, don't sleep, don't sleep, don't sleep, yeah. I've been way too patient and waiting to pay the payment. I'm taking the paper payments, not waiting for paper chasing. I'm taking a path that's dangerous and painted with chains and chambers. I'm breaking right through the basics.
So I got this really cool surprise gift a couple weeks ago. It's from my race. It's framed pictures, me crossing the finish line, and then me getting the MVP trophy from my age group. And I got these on my desk that's behind the camera, and right next to those pictures I got my finisher's medal. I still have to get a lanyard for it because they didn't give us lanyards because of the COVID-19 protocols and all that. And right next to that is the crown jewel, the MVP trophy itself. Not gonna lie though, like, having all 4 of these right next to my R2 medals from my 2 5Ks I've done, I just, every time I glance at it, I just can't help but to basically reflect on how much of a tough race that was, having to overcome the adversity, and having the outcome that race had to not only finish the race on one leg practically and getting the MVP trophy for my age group. It's still unbelievable feeling. Like, I still can't put it towards it. It's been almost 2 months later since the race, and I had people that congratulated me after the race, and they called me the greatest of all time, the GOAT. And I understand why Tom Brady cringes when people call him the GOAT. I mean, not gonna lie, he is the greatest of all time because the accolades don't lie. He's a 6-time Super Bowl champion, 6-time Super Bowl MVP, 2-time league MVP, practically has all the NFL records, and most wins quarterback in NFL history. And the reason why he cringes is because he's not done yet. And for me, I just I'm still in the early stages of my career in this long distance marathon running, and I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. And that's the reason why I really don't see myself upon that Mount Rushmore yet. But whenever I decide to call it a career, maybe that's when I can really think about that. But right now, all at this point, I'm just thinking about surpassing my uncle's legacy of 14 years of running marathons. That's my goal, to surpass his legacy. And if I get a couple more MVP trophies, that'll be great as well. And at this point, I'm just medal chasing because my favorite medal is the next one. And despite my life being full of tragedy, loss, and full of chaos, I finally found that next objective that not only keeps me going, but it drives me to where I am at this point in my life. And it's one of those things where I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. So I can't wait, and pretty excited to see where this long distance marathon running career goes. And quest for 4 and knock out half marathon, then the full marathon, and then eventually my biggest goal is to do an ultra marathon, and just take it one race at a time and get all the medals I can until I decide to call it a career. And I'm pretty excited for this new journey, and let's go. How well I think the documentary will do? Well, with 12 years of experience of filming videos and editing them, I always think they're always going to turn out bad, but they always end up turning out good. So, I don't know, we'll see. Hopefully it turns out good.
The truth can be a weapon to fight this world of ill intentions.
I don't think it's coincidence that Julian Allen made a documentary and he wants to win MVP. Well, I made a documentary and I won the MVP for my age group, so coincidence? I think not.
We just gotta hold on and on and on and on. 'Cause we're gonna be legends, gonna get their attention. What we're doing here ain't just scary, it's about to be legendary. Yeah, we're gonna be legends, gonna teach them all lessons.
The one left side of my body is the most injured. Here's why. Check my keiki.
It's about to be legendary.
I can't even bend it all the way down.
This is what we came for.
Crazy, huh?
And we couldn't want it anymore. We can never turn back now. Got to leave it all on the floor. Been dreaming of the payoff through the struggles and the trade-offs. Fighting tooth and nail on the way up. Tell them the truth, but they think it's just made up. I think they got it all wrong.
Oi! Why you still here, bruh? Video's over. Well, since you're still here, I can give you one piece of motivation. Tough times don't last, tough people do. Oh, and before you leave, make sure there's rice in the rice cooker. Mahalo. Shoots!